Welcome to Shoot Me Straight, Dave Fields, and I'm here with the political analyst Eddie Gallagher.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna start off today. We're just gonna kind of go back and forth and talk about some stuff. You're gonna get highly educated today,
or the opposite. So you're taking a risk.
What's the? I'm actually dumber after hearing that.
I award you no points.
Yeah.
May God have mercy on your soul.
Yeah, that's right. So did you watch the debates? I didn't even watch them.
I know. I get all of my news through clips from the debates, which I saw enough of. I did not watch the whole thing. I mean, it was pretty much what we expected, right? It's from what I saw. I mean, Biden is cognitively not there, as we've known for a long time. And I think what's crazy to me is the Democrats are like, they have been lying. Well, Democrats and the media have been lying to the American public this whole time, promising that, you know, he's cognitively there, he's better than he's ever been. And so, I mean, I think everybody was anticipating this big debate, and they hid Biden away for 10 days to prepare for this one debate. And he came out and showed his ass, I mean, right off the bat. And I think there's no question. There always hasn't been. I mean, if you've been paying attention this past 4 years during his presidency, I think if you're smart and you are able to critically think and believe what you are actually seeing, then yes, there's no question that he has cognitively declined since he's taken the presidency. And he wasn't fully there when he took it either. But it's gotten to a point now, it's like you're watching this poor, decrepit man get up there, and they're pumping him full of who knows what drugs to try and formulate somewhat of a sentence that makes sense. And it's not work. You know, it obviously didn't work during the debate. So I think I watched just enough clips of the debate to like, yep, this is what we've all been saying the whole time. And I think now the Democrats, some of them are like, yep, this isn't good. And you see some of them are calling for him to be removed from the next election. They want another candidate in there. I have, obviously because when you see something as illogical as this, and just as illogical as all the stuff he's done in the past 4 years, and I think people are constantly trying to make sense of it. Like, why do we have this leader? Why do people, are they pushing to like run him again, which I think is just complete insanity. But we've been living in complete insanity for the past 4 years. I think, so that debate they had was actually early, right? For most presidential debates, that was done a lot earlier than normal. I think it was done on purpose to get Biden out. I think the Democrats pushed it like, hey, let's get this debate out. Let's show the American public, like, yeah, he's not there. And so I think it's the only reason I can think of, like, why they would put this man on a stage like that and have him fumble around, is so they have like, okay, they have an excuse now, like, we need to get another candidate in here. Obviously, with what the Biden family is saying, they're not backing down. They're like, no, we're going to keep running him for the election. But I said it a while ago to Andrea. I was like, they'll throw in Michelle Obama at the last second, and I don't think that's out of the running still.
Is that the their next choice would be Michelle Obama, or is it?
I mean, that, or I've heard Gavin Newsom. There's other candidates out there that I truly think they've had the whole time. They're like, we're gonna present this at the last second. I know they just did polls on if they had ran Michelle Obama, and polls are whatever. They're not obviously 100% accurate, and it depends on what poll you look at. But it has Michelle Obama beating Trump easily if they just ran her right now. So I think the pressure's on is to have her come into that seat, or somebody to actually run against Trump that could defeat him. Because what you got to think of is, like, no matter what, most of the people that vote for Biden are extreme anti-Trumpers, right? It doesn't matter I mean, they voted Biden in over him. So, they really don't care who's taking that seat as long as it's not Trump.
Yeah.
It's an ideology. So I think that they know now, which I think they've known, but now that it's out in the public, like we've seen the debate, we've seen him fumble around, and he's still doing it. I mean, they're letting this guy, and that's what drives me to believe that they're doing this on purpose, is because they're letting this guy now go talk off the cuff. Like, he's now talking without teleprompters and still, I mean, just making a fool of himself. So I think they're just letting him. They're like, yeah, let it ride. Let him do this, and this will then put the pressure not only on him to leave, but then for us to throw another candidate in there at the last second.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
Man, so you follow it probably more than I do even. But I know they're not I know the extreme left is, scares me the most, right?
I feel like the extreme left is the left now.
That's crazy. I
feel
what I
like
knew as Democrats back then, right? Like old school Democrats. I'm in LLC with one that I won't mention his name, but I mean he's high up there, and he's always been a Democrat, and the things he says now, he can't stand Trump, but he is like, man, he can't stand liberalism now. He's like, this isn't what a Democrat is. Like, there used to be set values that everyone agreed on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where old school Democrat would be more towards social issues and stuff like that, where old school just typical Republican would be more towards economic issues and less government, bigger government, but it wasn't extreme. And so he's really struggled. I mean, when I talk to him just personally, and he talks about wokeism, I mean, he just goes off on it, right? And he's like a genuine like 1980s, 1990s Democrat. And I don't know, maybe there's a lot of that left and we're just seeing it, but what I've seen lately is more and more people, and maybe it's the sphere we're in, so many people are pro-Trump and coming out pro-Trump and talking, and really under a mindset of like, he's the one we need in office to like kind of set the ship straight.
Well, yeah, to get that pendulum to start swinging back towards the center.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and that's when I said, I think when you think of a Democrat now, it's like you think of extreme left, just because those are all the decisions that they're making are based on extreme left views, right? Yeah. That's the whole woke agenda, the whole all the transgender stuff. I mean, it's the very far left is what they seem to be. They really focus on and make those points each and every time that they're backing these, radical views. And I think in doing so, you've lost all the democratic like moderates, right? They're like, dude, we don't agree with this. But at the same time, that's their team, right? They can't leave their Democratic team. They're like, I'm still a Democrat, but they're sort of stuck in a rock and a hard place now because they can't leave their team, but yet they don't agree with the extreme radical views. So I think some of them are being forced to like, well, if I have to vote, then I'm going to vote for Trump. Like, we can't have this Biden, regime any longer. I mean, and you take out the wokeism and all those left views. It's just, look what this administration has done to this country, right? Inflation's out of control. The Afghan withdrawal, the border crisis. And then not to mention funding other wars, which is a complete opposite ideal of what Democrats are usually about. It's like they're usually the ones against funding the wars and all that, and then Republicans are usually the ones funding the wars. Now it's completely flip-flopped. Yeah. Right? You do have Republican congressmen up there that are, they're on board with the whole Ukraine and Russia war, and then the Israel-Palestinian conflict. They think we should be getting involved, and I think a lot of that obviously comes down to making money and keeping the military-industrial complex going. And most of those people, like the Republicans that are on board with going with that, are putting money in their pocket from it. All right, they're benefiting from it. But to have the Democrats, though, come out and, are completely in support of us sending millions of dollars to Ukraine to fund this war is completely so far from what they are supposed to be about. Or, well, at least my parents were Democrats. I grew up in a Democratic household, but it wasn't anything extreme. It was more, like you said, social issues, like everyone deserves a fair chance. You should be helping your fellow man, get a step up, all that. And I think those are all great values. I do think, that's what makes this country great, is that if you do come here legally and following the process, then yes, you can have those options to get help from the government to get a step up. And there's nothing wrong with that. But they've gone so far beyond that now, that it's even the moderate Democrats are like, no, that we don't agree with anything that's going on. And I hear people, especially, and then you have these like independents or whatever, libertarians, where they're like, oh, these two options are the worst, and there's got to be something. It's like, no, these are the two options that we have right now. So you can sit there and be like, oh, I'm not going to vote. It's like, okay, well then don't voice your opinion, right? It's one or the other. I realize RFK is running, and he's running as an independent, and I do agree with some of the stuff that he says. But at the end of the day, I know Trump, I saw what he did in his 4 years, and it's the pros definitely outweigh the cons. And so I'm going with what I know. And
how come you think with people that are just like, man, I will vote for anything but Trump? What is it about Trump that, are they scared? Do they just hate his
I think
personality?
Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing, and I think because he was demonized from the start where he started running for the first time and won, and then they doubled or tripled down and really went after him the whole time, and the concept that was put out through the liberal media was, this guy's racist, he's misogynist, they characterized him in every worst possible way. And I think when people hear that long enough, it becomes an ideology. It's no different, than I guess ISIS recruiting and getting people to believe in what they're doing. ISIS does it through online all the time, and it can be done. We had it done in our country. So I think when you have these people who are watching CNN or MSNBC, or pick your liberal channel, and that's all they listen to, then it becomes a belief. And then that belief turns into an ideology. And once you turn it into an ideology, you're not separating. There's no changing their mind. They are dead set on nope, Trump is bad. And which is why, if you talk to anybody on that side and be like, okay, explain to me why is Trump so bad? They cannot come up with one single rational, thought on why they don't like Trump. It's just what they've been told through the media. Oh, he's racist. He's this. He's just a bad person. And you're like, well, give me some examples. And then, then it really just comes down to, oh, I don't like the way he talks or presents himself. But then they completely avoid all of the good things that he did when he was president. They won't talk about those, or they say that those are false when they're not. And that's the other problem, is we're living in such a world of lies right now. It's it's okay to lie.
Yeah,
it really is. Biden lied the first 5 minutes of the debate. He told, maybe 3 minutes. His first sentence, he told 3 lies right off the bat.
Wow.
And they continue to. And it's just, they are so used to just spewing out lies and not being held accountable that it just becomes our reality now.
Yeah. Dude, I feel like you almost have to have it almost has to be a full-time job to try and dig up truth.
Yeah, nobody has the time.
Like
yeah, it's.
And I'm not saying that's just liberal either. Like,
No, it's both sides.
I think it's both.
There's an extremist right side as well,
Yeah.
Which would be, I think that might be like a fear as well, which, it's a concern of mine too. Like, we don't want a radical right side either.
Yeah.
Like, being the narrative or the agenda if Trump does win.
Yeah.
We would like to keep it copacetic to where how I think when we grew up, at least when we were kids, like we thought it was, like, yeah, there's two sides, and they have different views, but they're both willing to work in conjunction with each other, no matter who's president. Mm-hmm. But I think that ship has sailed to where there is such a line drawn in the sand, and no one is willing to help out anybody, and they will go out of their way to really screw the other side in the end, all that's doing, all that infighting up in D.C., all it does is hurt the American public, like the people of this country, with the decisions that are made.
Dude, if do you have any worry that if Trump wins, that there'll be some? I worry more probably the opposite way if Trump doesn't win. Than what's going to happen over the next 4 years. But if he does win, do you have any worries that, one, if he does win, are you have any worry of the election being stolen or any of that being?
My biggest concern, I do know, so say Trump does win. Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. Will there be riots? Will there be, cities set on fire? Well, if the past says anything to tell us, then yes, that will happen. They will freaking go apeshit, just like they have done in the past. When they don't get their way, they're like children. They'll throw tantrums, and I think we'll see some of the same stuff we've seen in the past. But that's not my biggest concern. My biggest concern is if he doesn't win, especially with all of the momentum he has going, and we have this pretty much Weekend at Bernie's president that is just a body, and he somehow beats Trump, I think then we have a major concern in our hands because, and I'll say this, I truly believe the election was stolen last time. And people, whatever, you can call it a conspiracy theorist or whatever. Most of the conspiracy theories that we've said in the past 4 years have all come out to be true. I do think the election was stolen, and I think if they pull those same shenanigans again and steal the election again, then yes, I don't know. My biggest fear will be people will rise up and start really doing stuff, fighting back. Because at the end of the day, like the right, when things don't work out in our favor, it's like we just keep working. We get back to work. You don't see people out there writing. And the one time they did, which was like the January 6th, like they went and protested in there. The Democrats made that into a international incident. Like, oh, this is the biggest, attacks since September 11th or worse of September 11th. Like the stuff that was said about it is just to drive. Again, they're very good at driving that narrative into the people that listen to them. Yeah. But that was the one time that their one chance, like, oh, you guys want to protest? We're going to turn this into something that we're going to criminalize all of you. Whereas when the Democrats lose or don't get their way, they encourage and incite violence. And they're like, yes, you should get out there and protest. You should be, and they quotes peaceful protest, but we haven't seen a peaceful protest by them. At least, I mean, there definitely is some that go on, but the ones that are, televised, especially during the, BLM and Antifa and all, they'll come out of the woodwork, man. And it's like that stuff is sort of just, oh, that's fine. They're just showing their support or their opinion. But then when the right does it, it's like, no, you're going to jail. And they're still locking up people right down to this day that they think were involved in January 6th. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, my biggest worry is that the right, especially the extreme right, because there are people that are pissed, and rightfully so, man. I mean, there are families getting screwed by what's going on, and it's my concern is that enough is enough, and they'll do something, and that I don't want to see.
Civil war.
But at the end of the day, it's like if Biden wins over Trump, I think people are like, we're no longer like the United States of America. We're in a dictatorship right now, and that's the way people will view it.
You think behind that is China? We're using a lot of buzzwords.
I think China
shadow banned, but
I think China is watching what's going on, and they'll insert their influence where they think it benefits them the most and just cause more chaos in our country. I don't think it's purely, and I hear that, the China-Russia stuff. Are they involved in some way? That, of course, they'll be like, well, let's take advantage of this situation and cause more chaos. But you don't think,
like, no differently than they have been for the last 70 years, like where they've had people come in and insert influence and things like that.
Yeah, they'll do that.
Yeah,
I think that's going to continue. I mean, and that's the downfall of social media and all those other platforms where they can insert their influence through that, amongst many other avenues where they can insert their influence. I mean, China plays it smart.
Yeah,
they're winning.
Yeah, and they're pretty smart.
Yeah. They understand that it's just time.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
I think in that scares me some of the slow, like, and not as slow now, chipping away at freedoms. Also, I don't know the answers to a lot of things, right? Like, I don't know the answers to a lot of social things. I don't know. Some of those things are not as black and white. Economics, to me, deals with math and numbers. So in a lot of ways, I'm like, okay, there's some, maybe not necessarily right, wrong, but like bad and better and great ways to do an economy. And we've had, one of the most powerful economies ever. And I worry about economically because I think of the guy who's a plumber or a trade, guys in the trades or the men in the United States that make it run every day, right? The guys that get up and do their 9 to 5, the UPS workers,
the blue collar workers.
Yes, like those men, they're the ones that get when we ship out trillions of dollars, right? Or when we make these economic decisions. I saw a deal the other day of it was like a grocery bill. He had all these different bills. It's like, hey, here's my Walmart bill from 1 year ago, and here's the exact same bill for this year, and it's like 3x. It's like 3 times as much, and it's like, here's what they're saying is inflation. Here's what my actual cost is on a Walmart bill between these two, and here's what my actual cost. And it's like, man, it's these guys that used to be able to have a decent career, get a nice house in a neighborhood, get a mortgage, raise a family. Those guys that we absolutely need for electricity, for water, to live in. These guys are going to be living very, very broke, paycheck to paycheck. They're not going to be able to save money and have a retirement. And I really struggle for that because we're not honoring those millions of Americans that get up every day and work really hard. They're not going to be able to provide a retirement and a life that they should in America.
Well, I think that's how Trump won the first time, is through the blue collar workers, the people that I don't know, call it the silent majority, but the people that actually keep this country running. Right. And I think those people are sick and tired of the system, watching the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and which is why they voted Trump into office, because he bucked the system. He's not part of the system. He doesn't need the money. I mean, and Trump admits it. He's like, yeah, I was one of those. I abused the system or used it just like everyone else did. And that I like that about him too, because he's just like, yeah, I did it. He's transparent, but at the same time, he knows it's unfair. So I think, when he came in and when he got voted in, he really does care. When he says America first, he's talking about the blue collar workers in this country. He's like, that's who we should put first. Get this country built back up. Whatever, make America great again. America's always been great. It's great right now if you want to compare it to other countries, but we can be better. You know what I mean?
We're on a trending downward.
We are.
And that's I in my head I think of like, man, begin to fix economically, and if we could. I would pay, honestly, I would pay double my taxes if I knew it was going to blue collar workers, if I knew it was going to those guys, if I knew it was going and I understand there's administration levels and stuff like that, if I knew that 60 cents of every dollar that I pay in taxes is going to the guy that is, when I wake up and I flip my lights and my electricity's on, the lights turn on, and when I run water, when all the trades. Mm-hmm. Like, if I knew that 60 cents of my dollar was going there, I'd double it up.
Yeah, or my taxes were benefiting the people who serve this country.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Because they,
yeah,
ever since this last 4 years have been budget cuts in the military. Those people who are serving our country are hurting. I mean, you saw we had those two Navy divers on that were on here talking about the BAH thing. That's just one little example. But yeah, it's, you want, and even now, like when I freaking hate taxes. Like we have to set aside, we have a tax fund every year. It's pretty much, I call it get an effed fund. Like I have to set aside a certain amount of money to give the government at the end of the year. And it's always just like a ridiculous amount. And I knowing like this money is not going where I would like it to go. It's going to Ukraine or like these woke ideology agendas and whatever else the government wants to spend it on. And I think that's another reason the American people are pissed. It's like, if you want me to pay taxes, then send that money to the correct place. It should be to a place where it's building this country up, not sending it overseas to another country that we shouldn't even be, in my opinion, involved in.
Yeah. Do you know much about the Ukraine war? I know very little about even the start of it. How do we start getting into the Ukraine deal?
I don't know a lot either. I mean, I know enough. I know that's been an ongoing thing, and I know NATO took Ukraine, and I believe from Russia, and now Putin's like, I want it back. And the fact that they've, Putin's, I think, spotted weakness, which is our president right now, was like, I'm making the move and I'm taking it back. I think then the agenda, when he started doing that, which is what they're very good at, is striking fear into everybody to get behind what they want, is like, if Putin takes Ukraine, then it's going to stop him from taking, the rest of Europe or wherever. And it's like, give me a break, man. Like I think Russia's winning that war. We'll never know the numbers that are being killed over there on both sides. But I know that Putin doesn't give a shit, and it's a war of attrition. So he'll just keep sending people to the front lines, and getting them killed until he wins. And I just think that it's like, dude, we shouldn't be involved. We shouldn't be sending our money over there. Like, we should be focused. We just got out of a 20-year war where we spent billions and billions of dollars. It's like, let's focus on here. Let's build up our military. Yeah. Let's focus on training for the next war. Let's focus on getting, like we talked about, the blue-collar workers, like getting families back to where they need to be. so
Focus
they
on
can
your
comfortably
own
live
house
here.
first.
Yes, before we start helping others.
Well, think of your journey. Like you said it, I think last week, in Truth About Transition with Andrea, about, man, I have to take care of me, right? Me, and then my family, bleeding over into my family first in order to be helpful to anyone
or else you have a situation like we have right now in our country where we're spending millions of dollars on Ukraine and everything else, and the people here in this country are suffering. And suffering, there's people that suffer, but then there's, I guess suffering is an extreme word, but it really is. It's like people are hurting in this country for money, just being able to live in a decent manner.
Yeah.
Because we're not focused on them.
It's not going to be sustainable. We're already seeing it. It's not going to be sustainable for what used to be middle-class America.
No.
Right? And so you have the 2 Navy divers that came in, and they're going, man, just around here, we're looking at home prices, we're looking at the price, and what they're giving us isn't enough for us to be able to afford one.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you got a family, a husband, a wife,
2 kids,
right? They can't afford a mortgage anywhere near here, so they're going to have to go a couple hours away, or they're going to have to get an apartment, but there's not even really good apartment type or condo type style homes around here for them out. It's like, man, that's going to be in so many different areas.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's
Your
just one
groceries, your
example, but I
gas,
think the military is a good example to use as a, like, this is happening in the military. This is definitely what's happening in this country then, right? The military is like a big social experiment a lot of the times. And if you see the people in the military struggling just to make ends meet, and those people aren't doing it for the money, they're doing it to serve this country. But if you can't even support them and their families, then you're definitely not supporting the civilians in America either. And it's not sustainable, and I think we're seeing that right before our very eyes.
Yeah. Are you hopeful for the 2024 election?
Always. I'll always remain hopeful. I mean, you can't and that's what, these people are like, oh, we're screwed. America's done. It's like, no, you can't have that attitude. That's not what made us America in the first place. I think I am hopeful. I do think that most likely Trump will be in office. And I know that a lot of things will be corrected. But I think that if he does get in office, it's going to take a lot longer time than people think. I hope people don't think like Trump's going to get in office and everything's going to be fixed. He has 4 years to undo the last 4 years, and there's a lot to undo. So I think what's very important is him having somebody to take his place, whoever he picks for VP, and to continue on that work, because I think it's about an 8-year process just to undo everything that this administration has done to this country. I mean, you saw it the first time Trump ran. He was only in there for 4 years, and I mean, I think he did a hell of a job, but he wasn't even close to undoing all the crap that happened to the Obama administration either. So, I mean, people need to be patient and realize that.
So you or Andrea going to run for 2028?
For president?
Yeah.
And I love Andrea. Andrea can be the first female president.
Yeah. I'd vote for her.
Oh, yeah. In a heartbeat.
She'd be awesome. You could be the VP.
Yeah. I don't even think she'd have me as VP.
You get fired.
Yeah. That'd last about a week. I don't think you can roll around the White House in camo cutoff shorts and tank tops.
Yeah, like the story of you at the house where you're like walking around for 45 minutes. She's like, "What are you doing?" You're like, "I don't know. I don't know what I should be doing right now." She's like, "Can we get someone else in here?" That's funny.
I think it'd be kind of cool to be a husband VP, or just a husband of the president if she was president.
Madam President.
Yeah, Madam President.
Yeah, that'd be great. Andrea would do great, man. She's spot on and tough and
oh yeah,
smart. She'd do great.
Yeah, she does good at whatever she does.
Yeah, but I almost wouldn't wish that on anyone.
No, and I think that's the other issue is like
service.
The people that should be in office or running for president don't want to do it. They're like, they look at what happens and I'm like, dude, I'm not putting myself through that or putting my family through that. I mean, it's the same thing when we got approached years ago of like running for Congress. Me and Andrew were both like, no, like I would not put my kids through any of that. Like we went through our own 2-year little stint of being attacked in the media and all that stuff. It's like, why we would not openly invite that into our lives again. Just because, I mean, Andrew, and it's not like we're scared of it. Andrew and I could take it, but I don't need my kids going through that. I don't know how that affected them the first time, and I'm sure as heck not going to invite them in, invite that into my family again for a second time and being like, well, I hope this works out. It's like, no, my kids deserve to be kids and grow up a normal life. So.
Yeah, you got to protect your family.
And, the other thing is, I think if you are doing the right thing and I think you have more of an influence on the outside sometimes than you do actually being in Congress. And I think that's like, especially through our foundation, we're able to pressure, the people in Congress to do the right thing from the outside. Whereas I think if we were in that bubble, there's so much toxicity and just the system is completely broken that we wouldn't be able to have the effect that we thought we would. Because I've talked to enough members of Congress, the good ones, and they all say the same thing. Like, you won't be able to get anything done the first 4 years, probably the first 8 years, because you have to. It's like a pecking order in there, and you're just because you're in Congress, you got to join a team when you get in there, have a side, all these. It's like high school, man. And it's just like it's not something that I would want to be a part of.
Sean talked about that some.
Yeah, my brother though, that's his world. Like, dude, he loves
good.
it. Yeah, and he loves
smart. He's very grounded.
Yeah. No, he's a very articulate intellectual that can have lengthy conversations and. I'm
still not sure he's your brother.
No, I'm more like...
I need a DNA test.
Yeah, we're not like, yeah, we've had this conversation for 10 minutes. We're both not in agreement. Like, are we going to fight or not? Like, if not, then let's just bygones be bygones and go our separate ways.
Has he ever just gotten pissed? It's like, let's fight, Eddie.
Oh,
not too many times of it.
No, he has one story where he got me good when we were in high school. Did he tell the story on the podcast? He came back from wrestling one day, and I was in the kitchen, and I was getting something out of the fridge, and my mom asked me to take out the trash, and I was like, have Sean do it. So then she was like, Sean, go take out the trash, and I think he must have been having a bad day, and he snapped, and I remember closing the fridge door and looking over, and he was in full sprint towards me, and he kicked me square in the balls. I'm talking full force. Dropped me to where I couldn't get up. I was on the ground for 5 minutes. And then he proceeded to go lock himself in his room because my mom even knew. She's like, you better run. And when I recovered, I went to his room and knocked on his door. It was like, you got to come out sometime. Like, it's coming. Yeah. That was one of the only times, Sean erupted
full
on me.
Sprint and kick you
yeah.
in the balls. Oh, man, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad he's still alive, and I'm glad he's a great dude.
He's one of the best human beings I know. And I hope he does. He's thinking about it, and I hope he does, because that's the type of individual we need in there. He can get along with anybody, but he also knows how to stick by the values that he believes in without, like, pissing other people off. Which I think is a gift. Yeah. Which we don't have that.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. You can call it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Out.
Out.